Offside with Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney.
Oh, yes. Caught offside from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you in this international break?
Yeah, we're coming out of it.
Yeah.
So we're on the other side now, as it is a Premier League weekend that awaits us. But that is a pod for another day. Tomorrow, mainly.
Yes, we'll have a Premier League pod tomorrow. But how are you getting through the international break? I have discovered City Bike, and now I'm all about City Bike.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, it's the only way I want to travel now. For those people outside of New York, City Bike is basically an app where you can pick up a bike at a depot and cycle somewhere and deposit it somewhere, and it's all just...
I'll say this. I respect you for it. You're getting a workout in. It's probably fun.
It is fun. You get to see the city in a new light.
Yeah. However, as somebody who drives in this city, because I drive to work every day, I can tell you that if I ran for mayor, my only platform would be no biking allowed in the city. I would eliminate it completely.
What? So you wouldn't...
There are just some streets. Now, the streets that have bike lanes, fine. Everyone, like, you stay in your lane, the car stays in their lane. But that's like, what would you say, 5% of the streets in Manhattan?
Well, it's a lot more than it used to be, but
that's true.
It's still not as much.
Well, I can tell you where I'm driving, there are no bike lanes. And it's just the worst.
And it's scary.
It can be. But because you have some bikers who follow the rules of the road, and then other ones who just don't give a damn. Oh, red light, but I'm on a bike, so the rules don't apply. Cars will wait. Cars will move out of my way. Like, you think you're going to kill people because they don't care. Because, like, if you're on a bike and it's just like rules don't matter. If I were running for mayor, JJ, that would be it. I'd be such a Grinch candidate.
You really would be.
No biking on my streets.
No, you don't care about carbon footprints, anything like that.
Buy an electric car. I don't care. But just no bikes.
Anyway, it took me 11 minutes to cycle up at a nice leisurely pace.
From where? Times Square?
Yeah. It was lovely. Absolutely lovely.
I'm sure it is. We have a lovely podcast that's going to be headed your way.
What a pro.
I'll tell you why it's lovely. Because a thing is happening in Columbus that you and I never expected to be happening. And that is that Save the Crew
#
appears to have worked. And it's incredible. And roughly a year ago at this time, was when we
began the campaign to save the crew.
It was basically when we found out that they were probably, what at the time felt like probably leaving. And we had Andrew Erickson on from the Columbus Post-Dispatch to talk about what exactly was happening there. And it was a grim, bleak interview. And now here we are, roughly a year later, because it was right around playoff time. And it seems like everything has changed. And sure enough, Andrew Erickson is going to come back on the show tonight to talk to us about what has happened. How did we get from point A to point B? Because it seems like it was not a straight line. So that should be really, really interesting for all you Save the Crewers out there. Also, red card, man of the match. I'm feeling good about both of mine.
I have a very interesting man of the match.
Okay.
One I did not think I would be handing out. It's to Chelsea FC. But the reason is...
You're giving this all away now. Interesting.
I'm only giving away that it's Chelsea. Huh. And I hate Chelsea.
Before we get into what we were planning on starting the show with, and that was the friendlies for the U.S. men's national team, we should say, I guess if we're giving out our women of the match, that is the U.S. women, because they have officially qualified for next year's World Cup in France. So congratulations to them. Now, they are, as we're recording, they are 20 minutes away from kickoff right now between the U.S. and Canada in a qualifier, which doesn't really matter.
No.
Both teams have qualified.
Well, it's for the CONCACAF Women's Championship Cup.
Bragging rights, I guess you could say.
And I suppose they'll want to add to their 24 goals in 4 games and just their utter dominance of the rest of CONCACAF.
Yeah, it was pretty much, not pretty much, it was literally a breeze for them. It was
not competitive.
No, it really wasn't. But
they've still done it.
Exactly. Like, it's they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They can only control how they play, and they played very well. It was never really scary for them at any point, which is what's supposed to happen. And as we know all too well in this sport, it's not what always happens. So I give them credit. And, like Carly Lloyd, Tobin Heath, Megan Rapinoe, like the star players are playing like star players. This is Julie Foudy on ESPN talking about how it feels like the U.S. women kind of have their swagger back.
You haven't seen a team play with this swagger in a long time for the United States. I mean, we've always been a country that took pride in being athletic and strong and fit, and always the challenge, which has been on the men's and the women's side, of course, has been where's that creative player? Where's the player who can break down a compact defense? And I think with the loss to Sweden in the quarterfinals of the Olympics, and we've talked a lot about this over the last 3 years, first time a U.S. team, women's team, has never made it to the medal rounds of a World Championship, a World Cup, or an Olympics. And what it did is it forced Jill Ellis to say, where are those creative players? And I need to start developing them. And so you're seeing the fruits of that labor. And Tobin Heath looking really good. Rose Lavelle, who we talked about. Lindsey Horan having a ton of confidence. Rapinoe. And really that starting 10 in front of Alyssa Nair, they're all excellent on the ball and good at getting forward.
We're back, is what she's saying.
I would agree with a lot of what she has to say there. I think swagger is too strong a term considering the opposition. I will say that Lavelle in particular has impressed me. There's a lot of other players who've come in and have looked really good, but this team, the creative ticking heart of this team is still Megan Rapinoe. Very much so. And against better opposition, you'll need more players stepping up to the plate, and basically it's very hard to judge where they're at against this opposition.
Yeah, but we will have a World Cup here next summer, and a World Cup to follow here, and it should be fun. It was a ton of fun 3 years ago.
It gave us the greatest drop you've ever had.
Oh, which one? The
Oh, you have to hit it. It's about being somewhere.
Oh, you mean this one?
Oh, in space! You were on the edge of your seat watching the game, and Carly Lloyd found herself in space. and you made
scored.
This weird, almost...
I don't know. I've always been more partial to this one.
Panenka! Yeah, that had nothing to do with anything. That was you. You were hepped up on sugar beans or whatever it was.
Let's see now. Let's get into the U.S. men as they are coming off a couple friendlies against Colombia and Peru. Now, I guess in the last go-around in September, we kind of did sort of like a stock up, stock down.
Oh, can we do that again?
Yeah, absolutely. I have exactly that in front of me. Guys who, or just general concepts that it feels like are stock up and which ones are on their way down. We'll go back and forth here. I'll give you my first one. I have more stock ups than I do stocks down.
I would agree with that too. I've called it down stock though. Rising stock and down stock.
That must be a European distinction that is made.
No,
there's just some things that our people will never see eye to eye on.
I call my broker every day and I go, check on the down stock for me. And he goes, buy high, sell low, thanks. And I hang up.
That's it. And you've made millions of dollars off of that. My first one, I actually went with Jonathan Amon. Because he kind of did what I was hoping he would do. Now, he's a teenager, and so there were clearly moments with him where you could see it's all very raw. There were times where his decision-making, you kind of hoped that he would maybe get rid of the ball a little bit earlier. There was the one opportunity against Peru early in the game when, he did a lot of the hard work. He broke through down the left and had Timothy Weah in space, but couldn't quite connect with him on the pass. But I just, like I said, leading into those games, the prospect of him being there was intriguing to me because I want more speed, I want more athleticism, and he, right away, you could see, he has those things.
I would agree with that. He does look raw, but there's that's per the reports we've been getting from Denmark. That's pretty much what his coaches have been saying and people who've seen him. But he looks a talent, Andrew. He looks like he could definitely contribute to this team.
Yeah. So he was exciting to me. What's your first one that you have?
My stock, and it has to be rising stock because people are going to go, you knew about him already. But he's playing in the fourth tier of German football. He's in Werder Bremen's reserves. Josh Sargent's touches versus Peru, they were relatively limited, but everything he did was magnificent. The 14th minute flick, which released the aforementioned Amon, was just brilliant. He's got his back to goal wide on the right-hand side, and he has the vision and the awareness to open up the play. An ordinary centre forward, and this is why I don't think he is one, when pulled out of that position, Andrew will do what? He'll try and hold the ball up on the line and bring others into play. With that quick thinking, he made a huge opportunity for the United States, and Amon overcooked that ball to Tim Weah. The 26-minute pass to Acosta, totally flown under the radar. That was just... It was Bergkamp-esque the way he played him in. It was excellent. Now, Acosta's touch was terrible, so that's why we forgot about it. But it was fantastic. 46 minutes, right before the goal, chases down a fairly ordinary ball into the box. Cruyff turns sharply and sets up way. That should have been another one. Cruyff, Bergkamp. You can see where I'm going with this. And then the goal itself. The clever run, good delivery from Acosta to give him his due, and a fine finish, wheeling in the opposite, facing the opposite direction, facing the corner flag to steer it into the bottom corner. Everything I see with him, Andrew, suggests he's more than a goals guy. Now, I should probably tone it down a little bit. He hasn't made a senior club appearance yet for anyone. But I have. This is why I'm so high on him. I think he's much more than a goalkeeper, than a goal scorer. He's definitely more than a goalkeeper. Much more than a goal scorer. I think he's a goal creator. And he's given me feelings that I don't usually get with American soccer players.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed him in this game as well. The goal that he scored, can we just talk about for a minute, like, why?
Doing your work on the set pieces? How great that is?
Well, it is great, but, like, how come that's not a thing that just happens way more often across the sport?
I would agree with you, but I think that there is first of all, there's two reasons. There is a general laziness amongst teams about how they set up their set pieces. We saw England do the stacked formation that I saw on a US high school field 10 years ago. And everyone was like, oh, it's unbelievable. They're in a row and then they break off and da-da-da. But like you said, why isn't it done more often? Why from a set piece, aren't there more original things happening? Here's another reason. I believe the second reason. There are guys who deliver the ball so well now, that whip it in with so much pace that it becomes just a thing, like Griezmann, for example, Eriksen, for example. Just let them do it. Let them do it.
I guess.
Someone gets a flick. But
those, even the guys who do that at the level of guys like you're talking about, it still feels, I was going to say 50-50, but it's the stats probably bear out that the percentages are in the favor of a defender heading it away before it gets to an attacking player.
I would say so too.
But if you run a set piece like this, you're, I would say, almost guaranteed of. Now, I can't tell you if the shot's going to be blocked, but I feel like you're nearly guaranteed of at least being able to get a shot off. And then, like what happened with Josh Sargent, it takes a deflection and it goes in. I just don't understand why it's not a thing that happens more often.
100%, I agree with you. By the way, if people want to check out my favourite misdirection set piece, it's England-Argentina World Cup 98 second round, and it's Javier Zanetti's goal. But it's not done that often.
Well, things are going to change. I can feel it. Let's see. My next one, JJ, I went with I guess this is kind of a cop-out, but I went with the entire back line from the Peru match.
The entire back line?
Up until a point. And when we get to stock down, I'll get to that point.
I know the name of that point.
But, look, I think coming into the game, I believe Taylor Twellman said at the start that the combined number of caps among the starting defenders for the U.S. was 6. That's like...
It's nothing.
Right. Like it's just like a completely fresh-faced squad. And the leader of that is Cameron Carter-Vickers, who has like barely done anything really of significance for the U.S. and is on loan once again at Swansea. I mean, that was a really, really inexperienced group playing against a side not identical to, but a team that went to a World Cup. That can be a bit of a tall order. And I thought they held up well. Carter-Vickers, Sweat, Long, Cannon. I mean, Peru had lengthy stretches of possession in this game, and it felt like that back four remained organized throughout. What were some? Even when I guess there were even moments when things broke down for the U.S. and things could have gotten frightening, and they stayed calm. For example, the giveaway in midfield by Josh Sargent in the first half, dangerous moment in the game. It led to a counterattack.
It was literally in the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Was it that early?
I was very early.
Yeah, I was going to say first 10, but you might be right. Led to a dangerous counterattack for Peru, but the defense, those back four, remained calm. They got back and they cleared, and there was no damage done. Carter-Vickers, later in the game, misplayed a header, which is not a good thing, but calmly recovered, got back into position, and headed away and cleared away what could have been a dangerous ball in. Now, it was eventually ruled as an offside. It wouldn't have counted had it gone in, but the fact that Carter-Vickers stayed calm, got back, headed it out, I was impressed with them. I generally was. I thought that you can look at mistakes on the goal, and I don't think that you can necessarily look at any of those four guys as being the primary culprits. And for a group as inexperienced as they were playing on the international level, I give them credit. So I'll stock up for those four.
This is a fairly quick one for me. Rising stock, those who were not present. If you look at the fullback position, the left-hand side, and we know Fabian Johnson can slot in there if he has to, we have not solved that problem whatsoever. If you look at Anthony Robinson in the first game against Colombia, against the experienced Arias just... Dave Sarakin had to make a change there, and he left it all game, and Arias just absolutely destroyed him down that side. And so Fabian Johnson and Ben Sweat did not impress me when he came in for his debut. And so therefore Fabian Johnson can look at that if he wishes to return. There was rumours that he wants to retire, we don't know. But if he wishes to return, that is somewhere where he can slot in and do a better job. Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie in the centre of the park. Nobody has come in during this 2-game stand and made me think, in that position, in central midfield, I like what Michael Bradley is doing, or I like what Will Trapp is doing. So those guys, those who were not present, their stock has risen in their absence.
Okay, that's fair. Although I don't think that, like, looking at the guys who are playing, with maybe the exception of Will Trapp, I think most people know, like, the guy, like, those spots don't feel like they're in danger to me. Like, I think everyone knows Weston McKennie has shown us a lot, and if we're putting a first team group out there right now, like, he's probably going to be considered for. Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying that, you know, the alternatives, the options to play even alongside Weston McKennie, depending on formation, aren't there. They're not there.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. My last one for this, I did go with Tim Weah.
So did I, but I'm interested to hear, because I'm not convinced on why I picked him for rising stock, other than the fact that
I just like what I don't totally know that I can quantify it. I just like what I see from him. I thought against Colombia, I thought he was good in the role that he was playing, and then against Peru, maybe I don't know. Maybe I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. They were talking on the broadcast about wanting to see him make runs a little bit more centrally, and then he did. But the ball, you know, he made the right run, but the ball just never met him. You know, like, he could have had a goal had Amon been able to find him with that ball earlier in the match. I don't know. He just, something about his, like I said with Amon, speed, aggressiveness, playmaking ability. You know, he. Weah drew the yellow card when he's getting ready to, you know, he's a burst of speed, and the defender has no choice but to kind of body check him, like, to the throat, face area. Mm-hmm. And I continue, every time I see him play, I just keep walking away thinking, okay, I just want to see more.
I think because of our love of YouTube highlights, Tim Weah is gonna do well out of the last 2 games. That ball he played, the breakaway and the ball he played for Bobby Wood's goal against Colombia, was brilliant. But no one's going to talk about something that's important when you're in a team as limited as the United States can be. He gave away the ball in the initial lead-up to the James Rodriguez goal. Now, a lot had to happen after that, but that was after a sustained period of pressure from Colombia, and we couldn't get the ball. So when you get it, it's precious. You can't give it away in your own half. You simply can't do it. The second thing was on one of the goals, I can't remember if it was the third goal or the fourth goal for Colombia, himself and Anthony Robinson, he's supposed to be back helping Robinson, and they're both standing still when I think it was Quintero slid a ball through for that goal. Whichever goal that was, that build up, he was caught out. And also, last night, again caught out on his defensive duties. That cross that comes in has to be cut out. Now, did Yedlin cover himself in glory? No. But that's such a dangerous ball, and Weah, on the replay, if you watch it, makes no effort to get across and cut that ball out. Now, I love what he's doing going forward. I'm excited about him in this PSG team, and I'm excited about Thomas Tuchel and what he's saying. But the manager looking forward is going to ask him, or going forward is going to have to ask him to do things other than just get on the ball and be exciting and create attacks. There's another side to the game, especially if he's going to find himself in a more midfield position.
Let's see, stock down. I'll just kind of build off of what you were sort of just talking about there. And
stock up Bobby Wood as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you had more.
Just because he scored. Simple as that.
Yeah, his goals per minute for the U.S. is actually pretty shocking in a good way.
Yeah, but goals are lifeblood for him right now, and that's a nice little run of, 3 in 3 games.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because he was in good club form.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right, scored. That's right. Oh, okay.
I'm including the
right,
game.
He scored twice
for Hanover.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep it rolling as long as possible, because we were kind of questioning what he was turning out to be in playing in the Bundesliga, and maybe things are turning for him. Stock down, going off of what you said, I know that you want to, I guess, blame Tim Weah for the goal, which I don't quite understand, but
you've got to get out and close him down. I'm just saying there's two sides to the game, especially when you're in a team that's limited.
Well, then I will play the layman's role here and give you DeAndre Yedlin, because that was just disappointing.
He was
to me.
just in the game. He was literally just on the field.
You've been on the field for 2 minutes and you're shutting off that quickly. Like, already you've lost interest. And that's unfair, I guess, to say lost interest, but like,
that's a great ball in, and even if he goes for it, it's such an awkward ball to even try and clear.
All right, but go for it.
No, I agree with you, but I think it has to be cut out at source. So we're going to.
They defended well all night against Peru. I really thought, and then like this guy who's supposed to be one of their best, not just defenders, but best players on the team, he comes on and is almost immediately culpable for Peru's equalizer.
Don't you have to stop the brilliant cross at source? You know.
Well, yeah, of course. Look, he's not 100% responsible, but I think if I'm laying out blame, he's like 90.
Okay.
So that's disappointing to me that one of our best players comes on, and then that's the reason that we give up an equalizing goal when all these young, inexperienced players did their job for pretty much the entire night.
My down stock, I'll go through it pretty quickly. Kellen Acosta, despite his goal and his assist across these two games.
You've just decided on him. You've made a decision.
He took his goal against Colombia extremely well, arriving late in the box, which me and you love from our midfielders, and he picked out Sargent perfectly. But in his general play on the ball, he gives it away too much. That is just something I could level at a couple of players on this team. Ben Sweat, 27, brilliant for him to make his debut in Tampa and make his full debut then the following week. I think that's great. It's a great story. I don't think he should play for America again. Will Trapp, centre mid. It's not happening for me for him. Anthony Robinson had a bad night. I don't think he was helped by either his winger on that side, who's got to help him more, or by the fact that he was getting skinned by Arias and Sarkin did nothing. And Kenny Seth, one shot over the bar against Colombia is all I can remember from that game. He needed to do more, and he just, between injury that first time against Ghana, where he came off early, he's just not doing it, and it's unfortunate because I'm sure he's got more talent than what he's showing. Also, downstock, Alexi Lalas's pessimism at the end, considering McKinney and Pulisic were missing, considering that Sargent didn't start, his pessimism at the end of the Fox coverage of the Colombia game was unwarranted. Absolutely unwarranted for a friendly game. In fact, I have found the way and the blueprint for the next manager to be successful, Andrew. Do you want to hear it quickly?
Yeah, of course.
The US goal through Bobby Wood shall light the way for the next manager. A formula has emerged from this. The constant complaint across how many years for the US is what? Inability to keep the ball for lengths of time, extended lengths.
That is literally, not to interrupt you, but that is literally my next stock down, was the possession.
Right. So we don't have a midfield to set tempo and control, and it doesn't look like it'll solve itself. Even McKinney probably won't be that regista that we need, or that the top teams have. But I don't think it matters. It's not our strength. What's our strength? Our strength is turnovers, just like in the Bobby Wood goal. I think if we can't win the ball in our half and build back to front through passing, a high energy pressing game that bypasses all that through turnovers is absolutely something we can be extremely effective in implementing. It works. We've got the personnel. You talk about the athleticism of Amon and the skill of Amon and guys like that. Weah. We have the youth and energy. It's easy to implement in the short windows that international football offers. It can be our DNA. It can be our culture. I want the next manager to implement that. Now look, you'll say to the boys, lads, your front three, I'm playing with a front three, by the way. You're going to run, you're going to squeeze, you're going to press. We're going to get turnovers 25, 30 yards from goal instead of trying to pass out from the back, which we can't do.
They cannot do.
We can't do it.
I'm so with you. It's unbelievable. But the only thing I guess that they would be hesitant about to going all in on that is, can you trust your defense? Because once you break through that initial wave of U.S. players going for the ball on a high press, okay, well now we've gotten those guys out of the way, and now they might be spread thin.
But that's coaching, Andrew. That's coaching.
That's easier said, but it also takes talent. You need good players back there.
That's having the correct spacing between your holding centre mids, your defence. I hear what you're saying. You don't want to do what Spain did against England, play a high line and get caught out with because Sergio Ramos, he's
I'm with you.
There
though.
are toddlers faster than him.
I think we have to try it. I really do. And there were moments against Peru where you saw it pressing up high, and I thought, just do this.
Right.
Do this more. Get really good at this.
So and give Josh Sargent and Pulisic and Weah and guys like that opportunities close to goal.
Yeah. My other stock down was just generally the possession game, because once again the U.S. showed an inability to keep the ball for long stretches and an inability, like you said, to string passes together. They can maybe put one or two, but like they just never put together a lengthy move that leads to something. Like, it just has to happen really fast. Like, it's like, watching the game last night, it's doing nothing. Oh, okay, quick turnover, ball into Kellen Acosta and puts the shot wide. It's just like they don't keep the ball and let something develop. It's just like, oh my God, we have it. We got to do something right now. Oh, nothing's materialized. It's just, and it's always been this way against opposition that is comparable to or superior to. Now, yeah, if you want to talk about when the U.S. is playing teams that they view themselves...
But we don't even do it against Honduras. We rarely do it against those teams.
But yes, it is a thing that has become frustrating. I mean, look, Peru aren't even necessarily a team that look to play a possession game. I mean, they're kind of a counterattacking team in their own right. But even against a side like that, U.S. finished with just 32% possession
at home
in that game last night. Only 5 shots, only 2 on target. You say at home. That's another thing stock down, some of these crowds. But it just still feels like the U.S., when they go into some of these games, they're just reliant. Like, it's worked for them before. Against Ghana in the World Cup in 2014. What do they have, like 2 chances and they scored on both of them?
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're reliant on that, though. We're not going to have many chances, but when we do, we better finish them. Do we have enough great finishers that's like the mentality that we can go into games with and attack?
But if you're having turnovers so much, guys like Wood, see how Wood, one opportunity, a goal. I just feel like win the ball high up the field and let your good players play 25, 28, 30 yards from goal, rather than, we don't have Pirlo. He's not taking it off the back four. It's not happening.
Here was Taylor Twellman and Ian Dark afterwards talking about the U.S.'s performance.
Every time you and I do a United States men's national team game against high-quality competition, it comes down to them defending as a group and set pieces. When is ever that opportunity going to come where you and I are talking about in the run of play, they created 4, 5, 6 chances. They had a little bit of possession. Until they get to that point, then it's going to be the same formula. Defend as a group, look for those half chances on set pieces.
They did defend well, and they restricted Peru to very little.
11 shots, though. They still had 11 shots. I agree with you. A lot of those shots from 30 yards. I agree with you. But on the other hand, again, they gave away a ball a lot.
Possession squandered too much, definitely.
And that's still a concern for me at the highest level against this kind of competition. Can you really compete and do that? But it's an inexperienced squad. It's a young squad. And you have to get your first experience in your first game and your first goal and whatnot. They got it tonight. Let's see where this progresses to over the next 4 or 5 months.
Why is he... I can't believe he's asking that question. Can you compete at the highest level if you don't put passes together? Iceland. Sorry, yes, you can, as long as you have an alternative plan. Mm-hmm. You can't go out there and try and wing it like I believe Klinsmann did for too long, or put too much faith in your players like other managers have done, that they're going to pass through teams. It's not going to happen. But you can definitely compete, Taylor. 100%.
Before we move off of this, I guess my last question about the U.S. right now is, when do these results start to matter? Because when I'm watching these games, I still don't care in these friendlies. I just want to, I look at certain guys and think, okay, is Tim Weah improving? Like that's all. Is Zach Steffen look comfortable in net?
Right.
But the final score has meant nothing to me basically since we were eliminated against Trinidad. When does that finally change?
Well, results. Well, it'll start to change. Right. Here's when it changes: when the new manager's installed, because he will be judged even on the friendlies. And I would say the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup. Seriously, though. Think about it. You're going to have January camp. It's not going to have all your full internationals. It's going to have a hodgepodge of MLS players.
What about these high-profile friendlies coming up next?
Well,
England and Italy, right?
Yeah, but we're not going to have a manager for that.
No.
We're probably going to have Dave Sarkin again.
But the squad, though, that is put out for those games, because they're being played in Europe, would probably be predominantly a European-based American team, which is going to consist of a lot of our best players. I'll kind of...
Well, it depends where they are injury-wise.
Hopefully they're healthy.
Yeah, so,
and if they are, it might be one of our first better chances, one of our first good chances to see what our first team is.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If Sarkin sets them up like he did in the first half against Colombia, they're going to get tonked, absolutely smashed. The second half, at 1-0 down, they had nothing to lose, and they didn't do it for the whole game, but they pressed a little bit, and they won a few balls and scored a few goals. And I think if Sarkin, if he's got a full squad to select, he should select it and play it, and they should have a go. Don't sit back, because England in the form that they're in are probably going to cut you asunder. Italy too.
Yeah.
I hope they have a go, is all I'm saying. But again, it's going to come from the manager. A manager who's a lame duck. No disrespect to him, but he's a lame duck manager. He's not getting the job.
No, but he hasn't acted like a lame duck manager. He has done everything that I think we could have asked of him.
I think he's been brilliant this year, and I think the first sign that he ever showed me that he didn't want to get a smashing was against Colombia the other night. They sat so deep. They defended on the 18 for large portions of that game. I think he's done a great job.
Yeah, I've grown to like him though, and I kind of like he wants the job, and I sort of feel bad for him because nobody's
talking about him, and also
no one is taking his candidacy seriously.
No, but also don't forget that the minute he would put his name in the ring and say, I want to be interviewed, they would probably interview him, and you'll have all those people come out of the woodwork and say, well, he's a legacy from the Bruce Arena era, which he is, and there'd be that going against him too.
Yeah, he never had a chance.
He never had a chance.
If this was his audition, I would say he's done a pretty good job. But I don't think this has really mattered. I think that the die was cast long before.
I would agree.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take a really quick break, so don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk to Andrew Erickson of the Columbus Post-Dispatch about Save the Crew. Hashtag Save the Crew. As it appears, the Columbus Crew, it's not official, but it appears as though the Columbus Crew will be remaining in Columbus. Stay tuned for that.
If you're a smoker, you know switching isn't easy. You've tried vapes and e-cigs. They just didn't deliver the satisfaction you expected. But Juul is different. It's not an e-cigarette. It's a vapor product that actually satisfies. Plus, Juul is simple to use, and there's no cigarette ash and no lingering odor. As a smoker, you expect a certain nicotine experience, right? Juul delivers. Give Juul a try. Check out JUUL.com/sports. Switch and be satisfied. Yes, you can do both. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Oh, back now on Caught Offside. JJ, this is a story now that we were excited to get into because I think it's a story that when we first addressed it, I guess a little over roughly a year ago or so.
It was this time last year, and we were pretty much resigned to this being a bad news story.
It felt like a story that was not going to end happily, but suddenly twists and turns and things have happened.
Can I say we're 98% happy?
Right. What is it they always say? That the ball's at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
Right. That's like the big line. But sometimes goal line stands happen.
We have to cross the plane.
That's right. Last year, around this time, what we're kind of beating around the bush with here is obviously the Columbus Crew. It appeared as though that they were going to be headed to Austin, Texas. And we had Andrew Erickson on with us from the Columbus Post-Dispatch back then to kind of talk about what appeared to be a really unfortunate situation for a really passionate fan base in Columbus, one of the banner clubs of MLS, of this league. And now here we are roughly a year later, and it looks like the script has flipped, and we have Andrew Erickson back on the program again. Andrew, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. And actually, today is the exact year anniversary of the announcement from Precourt Sports Ventures. Wow. So this is good timing that we're doing this podcast now.
It was all planned out ahead of time.
Yeah, I feel as if we should all take credit for saving the crew right now. And yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, before we get into some of the nuances of how we got to where we are now, why don't you, I guess, update us as to exactly where things are with the Crew in terms of their future in Columbus?
So on Friday, there was an announcement from MLS that the Browns owners Dee and Jimmy Haslam and the Edwards family of Columbus, and they run a construction development company here, have formed a group intent on buying the Crew and keeping it in Columbus. That obviously marks significant progress, in league conversations with prospective owners here in Columbus. Sets a path for keeping the team here in 2019. Obviously, that's not quite finished yet, but when you have, in theory, local ownership combined with a committed MLS to keeping a team here, It's like you said, it's at the 1 yard line at this point. Meanwhile, Austin looks on track to begin play no later than 2021. Obviously, there are some hurdles that Anthony Precourt and Precourt Sports Ventures have to clear down there, but that is the state of things as they are right now.
Andrew, you wrote yesterday in the Columbus Post-Dispatch, in a statement Friday detailing their interest to buy Crew SC and keep the team in Columbus, Cleveland Browns owners Dean Jimmy Haslam and Pete Edwards Jr. of Edwards Companies of Columbus said there are still many details to be worked out. What are these details, do we know?
Well, I think it starts with the purchase of the team, the actual figure at which the team is bought. And a source explained to us last week that how that will probably work is Anthony Precourt will take his equity in some in an MLS, transfer that down to Austin, and then this ownership group will buy the Columbus operating rights from MLS directly. So that's who they've been meeting with. That's who they've been dealing with. MLS Deputy Commissioner Mark Abbott has been to Columbus multiple times and has seen the stadium site, that this group views as ideal. So they'll be dealing with MLS directly. And I also alluded to it, but I think a stadium site and working out the future of where Crew SC will play after Maffrey Stadium is another part as well. There's a group of landowners in the Arena District, not far from downtown Columbus, that seem amenable to working with this potential ownership group and view a soccer stadium as a possibility there. So I think it could happen. It's just a matter of getting it financed and who pays for all of it. So those are details still to be worked out, but that ownership group in the league are not going to make an announcement unless they're confident that something can get done and get done quickly.
Andrew, with this story, for me as an outsider to this situation, it just, as we were saying kind of leading into here, it always felt like an inevitability that the Crew to Austin was a thing that was going to happen. And then I kind of just went online one day and it was like, oh, Save the Crew may have worked. I mean, for me, it felt like it was a thing that happened almost overnight. But for you in Columbus following the story, had this been building? Had this been getting closer and closer to happening for a while? Or was it just as much a surprise to you?
I think I saw it building over time, and I think about certain days where I thought a move was most likely. Obviously, very early on in the process, I thought, like you said, it was inevitable that just because of the will of Anthony Precourt and Precourt Sports Ventures and what they wanted to have happen, it was just going to be a case where it was just a matter of time before Austin worked out. But I think once they got the term sheet approved in Austin, that was August, that Austin City Council voted to approve a term sheet between PSV and the city, and they started working toward a final, stadium lease and development agreement. After that point, it got very quiet in Austin, and it was almost like the momentum stalled a bit. And meanwhile, this prospective ownership group continued meeting with the league. It seemed like the league was willing to listen. As time, dragged out further in Austin, it seemed like it was going to be difficult to get a team on the field in 2019. And at that point, I would say late summer, early fall is really where I felt the momentum start to shift, that progress was being made, and that based on a number of factors, it was going to be likely that something could be worked out in Columbus, and that a team on the field in 2019 in Austin was going to be difficult. So I think it was a number of factors, but over time, I think you saw it start to shift.
Andrew, let's talk about the new owners. And one part of the new ownership is the Haslams of the Cleveland Browns. How would you characterise their ownership of the Browns? And I suppose, are you confident that they can run a successful soccer club?
Well, I think that's hard to say. I think, at the very least, they're operating a team in Ohio. I think they understand the importance of soccer in Columbus, and I think that they have connections to the Columbus partnership, specifically Columbus partnership CEO Alex Fisher, that will allow them to get in touch with the Columbus business community in a way that was maybe difficult with Anthony Precourt. And so I think those connections will be there. In terms of how much they're willing to spend to transfer in players or to pay a coach or for practice facilities, I think that's all to be determined. I think there's an understanding and a wealth factor there that that they want to do it right, but I think that'll have to be proved over time. But I think with the Edwards family, and Pete Edwards Jr. has been one of the Cruise team doctors since 1996, and I think has an understanding of how the league operates, how the team operates, what the Columbus soccer community is like, and how to connect with those people. And so I think that's all, important stuff when you're talking about forming an ownership group. So I think it still needs to be proved over time, and we're a few days into this announcement happening. So there's definitely more steps that need to be taken, but I think they're off to a relatively promising start.
Andrew Erickson of the Columbus Post-Dispatch joining us here on Caught Offside. Andrew, I want to ask you this, but I guess I'll put it as a qualifier. Tell me, as I'm going through this question here, if my perception of the situation was wrong from the get-go. But with respect to the league and Don Garber, I felt like in this situation, at least to me, he was kind of cast as the villain, that he wanted a team in Austin and things were going to be moved in that direction come hell or high water. And now this has happened, and I just wonder if maybe the way people looked at Garber throughout this process was wrong. I felt like people thought his desire, saying I want to keep a team in Columbus, may have been disingenuous. And now if that happens, I guess for lack of a better term, do we owe him an apology?
Well, I think you could view it both ways. And the first is that, back in 2016, the league started to make inquiries into Austin and made it clear to Austin city officials that, hey, a solution for a soccer team in Austin is possible outside the parameters of expansion. So they kind of set the table for this to happen, and I think it is worth noting that the league was complicit in this happening. So I think there is, some blame due to them in that respect. But I think also, even throughout this whole process, the city of Columbus and state of Ohio sued Major League Soccer. They were a party in that lawsuit with Precourt Sports Ventures. They continued discussions with the Columbus partnership with these prospective owners, and I think became more comfortable with them. I think a more vengeful league in a way would have cut off talks and not made that happen. So I think some of it is just the way things shook out. Obviously, there like we talked about, the momentum kind of went away in Austin. That opened up the possibility of talks with Columbus. But I think you can kind of view it both ways. Obviously, they were able to work something out with the Columbus business community and with this prospective ownership group, but certainly were a part of these Austin discussions before they became public.
Andrew, allow me to ask a very naive question, but I feel like I'm going to ask it anyway with the best interests of Crew supporters at heart. They were really the ones that were going to be screwed in this move to Austin and what was going to transpire and thankfully has been saved from happening. Fans have been crucial to keeping the issue of the Columbus Crew to the forefront in the media. Is there any indication that the fans will gain a more active role in the running of this club via supporters trust or via shares, or is this just going to be an MLS franchise as we know it?
I think it'll continue to operate in the normal aspect, and I think something formal like a supporters trust or a Green Bay Packers situation where the community owns the team. I don't see something like that happening, but I do think in recognizing the power of Save the Crew and the voice they were able to have throughout this process, that they will need to be consulted on certain things. I think if you're this incoming ownership group, it would be wise to meet with Save the Crew leadership or the fans to get a sense of what they want and what makes a fan base successful in Major League Soccer. So I think there will be probably more consultation, and I think it's a lesson learned in that respect the last year. But I don't see any formal process by which fans will have a control over the team.
Andrew, last one from me. I'm curious about the players in this. I mean, I imagine, obviously we know about Will Trapp and his connection to the region, but, have we heard from some of these guys? Are they thrilled at this news? How have they taken this so far?
I think so, because throughout this whole process, guys are coming up kind of privately and asking, hey, should I be renewing my lease or not? I have to make a decision on these kinds of things. So I think it makes those little aspects of life just a little bit easier. There's at least, obviously in professional sports, there's not a whole lot of certainty. You can be sold or traded anywhere at any given time. But I think for those players who are under contract for next year, it just makes things a little bit easier. I talked to Justin Merrim today, who was, very excited about the possibility of being here next year and considers Columbus home. And a guy like Josh Williams, who grew up in the Akron area and really loves Ohio, and so is very, again, excited that the team is staying. So I think for the most part, the guys who have vocalized it are, excited about the possibility of the team being here next year and about a situation being worked out.
Before you go, Andrew, how excited are you about the prospects of a ferocious Ohio derby next season?
I think it's great. I mean, I was at that U.S. Open Cup game last season, and just the atmosphere was fantastic. So I think it'll be interesting to see FC Cincinnati in its first year, what kind of a team they can field. Obviously, they have Fernando Adi and some talented players on that team. And then in addition, the Crew is going to be a very different team next year when you think about the likelihood of Greg Berhalter leaving, Will Trapp and Zach Steffen likely entertaining offers from Europe and playing abroad. It could be a very different type of game. But I think, when you're talking about two fan bases that care about their teams very much, one obviously a little bit older than the other, I think it's a great thing for the state of Ohio, and I think a lot of people are excited about the possibility of that being a rivalry for years to come.
Well, good stuff, man. Like we said, it's a story that we didn't always think was going to have a happy ending, but in the end, it feels like that is the direction where we're headed. So we appreciate you on this 1-year anniversary of joining us once again and filling us in. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, guys.
Our thanks to Andrew Erickson. It's a cool story. Very happy to see it. And you know what's kind of nice about it is, I don't want the soccer fans of Austin, to kind of be classified as like villains in this. Like, I know, but the villain, I guess, was Precourt Sports Ventures.
The villain might be the system, Andrew.
Yes, I suppose
the villain might be the system.
Wow, what a huge but deep way of looking at it.
Yeah,
the system is to blame, but Precourt Sports Ventures is also kind of to blame. But I'm glad too, that I want everyone to win. Like, I want Columbus to keep their team, and Austin, a city with no professional sports teams, I think that in a young city like that, I think an MLS team being there is not a bad idea. So I'm glad also for the people of Austin who want a soccer team so desperately that it looks like they're going to get one too. The loser here really are, if you believe Don Garber that he's cutting this off at 28 teams, the loser is whatever other expansion teams out there were hoping to one day be included. Like San Antonio is probably screwed now because Austin is still going to get a team. So I doubt that they'll put, with Houston, Dallas, Austin, I just don't see another team going to Texas. St. Louis is such a soccer hotbed.
It's huge.
But it looks like them coming in as an MLS city is going to be too little too late.
What about Eric Rinaldo, newly installed as the Las Vegas Lights manager? Just today that happened, and they did this cool launch video, which I kind of liked. And what about them? There's no way for them to go. They're trapped in USL.
Yeah. So I guess those were some of the losers here. But in terms of like the key players that we've been talking about for a while, it feels like everyone is going to be in the end getting what they want. Like it's going to be good PR for the league. The fan bases of both cities seem like they'll get what they want. So hopefully, if this continues to move on the trajectory that it's going, it's going to be a good story.
Open the 3 tiers, promotion, relegation.
One day. But that day is probably not today, or next year, or the year after, and probably many years after that. Oh!
Red card.
You want to go first?
Yep. England away. Topical. So this is from the Mirror. The FA have vowed to investigate reported violence involving England fans in Seville ahead of the Nations League match versus Spain on Monday night. Riot police for the Nations League, Andrew, dispersed the travelling supporters following reports some fans had vandalised cars during a drink-fuelled night of antisocial behaviour. Video emerged of England fans being chased in the city, with the FA moving quickly to condemn the behaviour and outline their intentions to combat the shameful antics. "We condemn the unacceptable behaviour witnessed in Seville," read a statement from the FA. I wonder have they just that ready to go, like copy-pasted. With the Spain fixture still to come on Monday night, we urge those following the team to respect our hosts and act in a responsible manner. The FA will work in partnership with the UK Football Policing Unit to help identify those involved, and we will sanction any England supporters, travel club member found to be responsible for disorder. It's just another example of England fans going away and acting deplorably. I'm going to direct people towards a piece by Jack Pitt-Brooke of The Independent, where he talks about why English fans act the way they do, why they sing the songs they did. It was, again, another round of Islamophobic songs, anti-Irish songs, anti-Catholic songs. Again, he writes a brilliant piece which kind of gets into the psyche of the England fan and the kind of insular nature and the almost, I suppose, invasionary-like tactics that they seem to have to take on when they go abroad.
It's weird. Do they feel like they're playing a role? Like, this is who we are, we need to behave this way? Like, I don't get it.
And they sing songs about things. They're obsessed with the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Obsessed with it.
Why?
Some of these guys were only born, like the guys that are in their, if they're 20, some of the guys that were travelling, the Irish Troubles was on its way out. It was over. The IRA were on ceasefire. I don't understand it. But again, they're making the headlines for the wrong reasons. And we will talk on the other podcast about the right reasons and England being rather excellent.
Let's see. My red card, I went with Romelu Lukaku, JJ, a player that I typically like. We all know that Manchester United are in the midst of a rough patch, and we all know that Lukaku is also in the midst of a rough patch as the Belgian international has gone 6 straight games for his club without finding the back of the net. But instead of trying to emerge as a leader in a time when it feels like United are void of them, Lukaku has decided to go the other way.
Oh, no.
And exacerbate their current crisis by strongly intimating his desire to leave. Here's what he had to say when the topic of him one day playing for Juventus came up. Quote, "Why not?" Lukaku told Gazzetta dello Sport. "I hope it happens. Juve have a great project in place, and they just keep going. Every year they try to get stronger. Without doubt, Juve are one of the 2 or 3 best teams in Europe. They've got a great coach on the bench and extraordinary players in every area of the team." It's not awful what he said, and he could always say, "I didn't mean now, I mean later in my career." But, first of all, it wasn't that long ago when United were one of the 2 or 3 best teams in Europe. But now, at the first sign of trouble, instead of talking about working hard to try to turn things around at the club you're currently at, you're going to cut and run and take that route. It's a shame because I've heard so many good things about Lukaku as a guy. He's a really good player, but I just feel like this has become too emblematic of the modern athlete, that when adversity strikes, the first thought is, how can I get out of this situation, not how can I help to fix this situation.
I hear what you're saying, and you're right to preface your comments by saying that doesn't seem like who Lukaku is, because look at the way he was born out of adversity.
Absolutely.
And he had to fight his way to the very top. He grew up in poverty. So I think this is a reaction to the flack he's been taking from United fans and from non-United fans. And I mean, he had that Instagram post last week where he was on about like classic 14-year-old girl stuff, haters gonna hate or something like that.
No, and look, it's not...
He's frustrated.
And the reason I say it's like emblematic, not of him specifically, but of I didn't like when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State. Like,
stick it out.
That bothered me too. You're close, man. Like, you can do this. Like, I don't know. Lukaku's a great player. And United are going through a really bad time right now. And I just who is this helping to say, yeah, I want to play for Juve. They got a great coach there. Like, I don't know. Just, if I were a United fan, I would have read that and thought, you know what, then go. Like, we don't. If you're not in this to help us get out of it, then we don't even want you.
Or just stop.
I would turn on him, and I don't. That's maybe an ugly part of me. I don't know.
Stop the nonsense and knuckle down.
Yeah.
Caught Offside's man of the match.
I'm curious for yours.
Yeah, Chelsea FC. I read this in The Guardian a few days ago, and I really wanted to talk about it. This is from the 11th of October, if you want to check it out. Chelsea want to send racist supporters on trips to the Nazi concentration camp Auschwitz instead of imposing banning orders. The club's owner, Roman Abramovich, who is Jewish, is at the forefront of the initiative designed to tackle anti-Semitism among fans. Chelsea want to offer supporters caught being racist the chance to attend education courses at the Second World War concentration camp in Poland instead of being banned from attending matches at the Premier League club. If you just ban people, you will never change their behaviour, the Chelsea chairman Bruce Buck told The Sun. This policy gives them the chance to realise what they have done to make them want to behave better. In the past, we would take them from the crowd and ban them for up to 3 years. Now we say, you did something wrong, you have the option. We can ban you, or you can spend some time with our diversity officers understanding what you did wrong. Chelsea publicly criticised a number of their own fans for anti-Semitic chanting against rivals Tottenham in September 2017. Buck said, "It is hard to act when a group of 50 or 100 people are chanting. That's virtually impossible to deal with or try to drag them out of the stadium. But if we have individuals that we can identify, we can act." The club sent a delegation to Auschwitz for the annual March of the Living in April, while 150 staff and supporters went on a day trip in June to the site, which once housed Nazi death camps while Poland was under German occupation.
That is fascinating.
Isn't it?
The thought of soccer clubs taking on the role of almost like correction officers, like trying to rehabilitate.
Or ethical educators.
That's like a totally new realm for a team to get into. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's a really interesting idea.
I think it is interesting. It's challenging. And I think it's important. I would not, and I don't want to tarnish all Chelsea fans, but I will say they had a massive problem, particularly 20 years ago. Huge. Their away support, as documented in the McIntyre Undercover documentary, which is on YouTube. They were just abhorrent anti-Semites, racists, and they would travel across Europe spreading this through violence. So for Chelsea to take this on head on it's really, I think it's really noteworthy. I think it's really good of them to do it. Will it work? It's better than banning, I think.
Yeah, it probably is. But boy, that's just it's such a different route for a club to take.
It's very.
I'll be curious. I wonder if this will happen now.
Well, I'm going to try and follow up with Chelsea FC and see if it does.
Let's see. My man of the match is Pierre Company. He is the father of Manchester City's Vincent Kompany. He also was recently elected mayor in the municipality of Ganshoren in Brussels, becoming the first black mayor in Belgium's history.
Wow.
He arrived in Belgium in 1975 as a refugee coming from what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. He only became active in politics about 12 years ago. Vincent took to Instagram and posted the following after this became official. Quote, "History, we are so proud of you, Dad. Came over from the DR Congo as a refugee in 1975, now gained the trust of your local community, becoming the first ever black elected mayor in Belgium. It was long overdue, but it's progress. Massive congrats." And massive congrats from us as well. Very cool. Pierre Company, mayor, first ever black mayor in the country of Belgium. Wow.
That is fantastic. And you know who comes out of the Guys documentary very well?
Vincent Kompany.
Vincent Kompany and his father-in-law, who's a Man United supporter. Their interaction in the living room was about the best that documentary had to offer. It was so cool.
Well, I've seen it written about Vincent Kompany that, because injuries have plagued him of what has been a brilliant career, but I think he knows where his career is headed, and he has now kind of made it a point to, okay, I have this gift of having Pep Guardiola as my manager, maybe the best manager on the planet right now, and he has kind of taken it upon himself to shadow him and to observe him and just take on and suck in anything that he can from Pep before his career ends. So it seems like his father clearly is a leader, and it seems like Vincent Kompany shares a lot of those traits, and who knows where his career will be headed next.
Well, between Vincent Kompany's father's story and the aforementioned Lukaku story, there's some serious, amazing immigrant stories coming out of Belgium.
Yeah. So great stuff. Let's see. Our thanks to Andrew Erickson from the Columbus Post-Dispatch talking about Save the Crew. We've got another podcast coming out for you. Well, it depends when you're listening, but probably sometime Thursday afternoon. Go through some of the some other stories from the international break. Should have Miguel Delaney on that podcast as well, and a big what to watch for is a couple, not a ton, but a couple interesting Premier League matches as the league returns. This was fun, my friend. To you I say,
take it later, fun boy.
I'll see you.
Let's cycle home together.
You've been listening to the Caught Offside Soccer Podcast.